In this guide, why public clients can't hold a secret, how the cryptographic handshake works step by step, 3 attacks PKCE stops, and 1 it doesn't, and how PKCE went from RFC 7636 to mandatory in OAuth 2.1. Identity Expert, powering you to be an expert in identity. Anyone who intercepts your authorization code can't use it, they never saw the verifier. That's PKCE proof key for code exchange. Every single-page application and mobile app has the same fundamental problem. It cannot hold a client secret. Anyone can crack open the JavaScript bundle or APK and read it right out. PKCE replaces that static secret with a one-time cryptographic challenge generated fresh per request. The code without the verifier is worthless. Think of it like checking into a hotel. The old way, the concierge hands you a paper ticket. Anyone who steals that ticket can claim your bag, there's nothing else to check. PKCE works differently. Before you hand over your luggage, you tear a puzzle piece in half. You give one half to the concierge, they pin it to your bag, you keep the other in your pocket. When you come back, you show both the ticket and your matching half. If the 2 pieces don't fit, the bag stays put. A thief who grabs just the ticket is stuck. They can't forge the other half. In OAuth terms, the auth code is your ticket, the code verifier is your matching puzzle half. Now let's bring that back to code. The classic OAuth 2 authorization code flow was designed for server-side applications, the kind that can hold a client secret in a locked data center, but a mobile app or a browser-based SPA cannot. Anyone can crack open the APK or inspect the JavaScript bundle and read the secret right out. So the ticket, what OAuth calls the authorization code, is vulnerable to theft. In 2015, the OAuth working group shipped PKCE as RFC 7636 to solve exactly this. It replaces the static client secret with a fresh one-time cryptographic challenge, the puzzle piece generated per request. PKCE works in 3 moves. First, before redirecting the user to the authorization server, the client generates a random string called the code verifier between 43 and 128 characters of entropy. It then hashes this verifier with SHA-256 and base 64 URL encodes the result. That hash is the code challenge. Second move, the client sends the authorization request as usual, but it attaches the code challenge and declares the method is S256. The authorization server stores that challenge alongside the code it issues back. And here's the key insight, the verifier itself never leaves the client, only its hash does. Third move, when the client comes back to exchange the authorization code for tokens, it sends the original code verifier in the clear. The authorization server recomputes SHA-256 of that verifier and checks it matches the challenge it stored earlier. If they match, you get your tokens. If not, the server returns invalid grant and the exchange fails. Even if an attacker intercepts the authorization code, say, through a malicious app registered on the same custom URI scheme, they can't use it. They never saw the verifier. It was never on the network. Let's look at what this actually looks like on the wire. The authorization request is a get-to/authorize with the familiar OAuth parameters. Response type, client ID, redirect URI, scope state, plus 2 new ones, code challenge, which is the base 64 URL encoded SHA-256 hash, and code challenge method equal to S256. The authorization server redirects back with a code. Then the client posts a /token with grant type authorization code, the code it just received, and critically the original code verifier. The server recomputes the hash and compares. On success, you get a JSON body with an access token, a refresh token, and optionally an ID token for OpenID Connect. On failure, you get a 400 with error invalid grant and the description, PKCE verification failed. PKCE defends against 3 concrete attacks. First, authorization code interception. A malicious app registering the same custom URI scheme or a rogue browser extension reading the redirect URL. PKCE makes the stolen code useless because the attacker doesn't have the verifier. Second, downgrade to the plain challenge method where the challenge equals the verifier verbatim, defeating the whole point. OAuth 2.1 removes plain entirely, only S256 is permitted. Third, verifier leakage through logs, referrer headers, or an XSS sync in the SPA. The verifier must be generated in memory, never persisted to local storage, and protected with a strict content security policy. A critical reminder, PKCE is necessary but not sufficient. It does not stop token theft after issuance, which is why FAPI2 pairs it with DPoP or MTLS for sender-constrained tokens. As of 2026, PKCE has evolved from a recommendation to a requirement. OAuth 2.1, currently at draft, makes PKCE mandatory for every client, public and confidential, using the authorization code flow. FAPI2, the OpenID Foundation's high-security profile, requires PKCE alongside sender-constrained tokens. And the browser-based apps draft now strongly prefers the backend for front-end pattern over pure SPA token handling. If you're building anything that authenticates users in 2026, assume PKCE is table stakes. the baseline every compliant implementation must meet. All primary sources cited in today's guide are listed on screen. You'll find direct links to the RFCs and specifications in the video description below. If this breakdown helped you understand the topic better, please subscribe to Identity Expert. We publish a new protocol deep dive every week. Thanks for watching. If there's a specific identity standard, authentication flow, or security protocol you'd like us to cover next, drop it in the comments below. We build our content based on what the community asks for. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an episode.